When he told me he was going to do the Ironman, I think I kind of knew even before he told me. I almost saw like a glow in his eyes. He got hooked in the competition, in the adrenaline. Everything for Luke was like, show me something really hard. I'm gonna master it, like do it unbelievably, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. That's his MO. Like, we used to actually even joke about that when he was little, because he made nationals. He was like top ranked in the breaststroke and swimming when he was 12, and he quit swimming. The LA Marathon was first. He won the bodybuilding show. He went pro. He got his pro card, and then it just wasn't enough. Like, there had to be more, and that's when he started talking about doing Ironmans. And then he did the half, and I never heard him talk about anything the way he talked about the half. Like, he was like, I found it. I found my thing.
Usually with open water swims, you'd wear a wetsuit just to improve buoyancy, efficiency in the water. But it comes with like a certain like give and a take. When the water's a certain temperature, you can't wear a wetsuit or else you're gonna cook yourself. Yeah, it's too warm. So we're just gonna wear a normal bathing suit, still get our work in. 2.4 mile open water swim, the entire Ironman length swim right now. It's beautiful though. Like, I just genuinely can't believe that this is what my Friday morning looks like. It's gonna be a little nice morning swim. I botched that last part and it's okay.
I've been an athlete my whole life. It started out playing t-ball with my two older brothers. I've always been the youngest on every team, and I've liked that. It's always been that underdog mentality with me. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have to work a little bit harder to stay with everyone else, but I love to work hard. I played baseball and I swam competitively growing up. That was from probably ages of 4 to 12 years old. And then once I got into high school, I picked up football, and that was definitely a shell-shocking experience considering that I was 5 feet tall and
90 pounds. And he came to me and told me he wanted to play football. And I said, you're crazy.
my mom was definitely not the biggest fan of that.
So I refused to drive him to practice because I was so sure that there was just no way.
Nonetheless, I continued to do what I do best, and I worked hard, and I
Got up every morning at 6 o'clock and rode his bike to football practice and back with his pads and his helmet. So after like about, I would say, a week of riding his bike, maybe 2, I was like, okay, he's serious about this. I guess I'm gonna drive him. And he was serious, and that was the beginning of really, really seeing that determination in sports and how he wanted to get bigger and better and faster.
1.8 to 42.50. So I think if I literally just do a running start out to that buoy, 180 it, and come back, or maybe just to here, should be good. Woo! Let's go. Dude, holy crap, I'm proud. Least optimal conditions, hardest swim workout, fucking done it. Ready? Let's do it. This workout was the only workout all weekend that like I needed to be like fully dialed in for. Like it was the only one I was like actually like a tad bit nervous about. But, like swimming is like the hardest one. Yeah, it's just fucking long. Yeah. actually swim for a while. Like, and when you're like all the way out there, and you like take a breath and you look just across the lake, you're like, holy shit. It's nice though, because the Madison course I think is a big rectangle, so it's not like multiple laps. It's just like you go. All right.
I mean, I just really want to thank you again. I know I've texted you multiple times throughout the prep, but like, thank you very much for coaching me and for like the guidance you've provided. And I'm excited to see like what we're gonna do. Like, really.
Yeah. No. How are you feeling?
I think that swim was like the last barrier, because especially like last week going at it and like overheating in the wetsuit. I was just like, this is much more of a mental thing than it is a physical thing. Like, my splits in the pool I know are significantly faster, and like I'm hitting the workouts in the pool, but when it comes to open water, I think it's just like a different mental game for everyone.
I think the biggest mental barrier is first lining up to that swim. I think actually, I remember when you were on our podcast and you were saying like, you're lining up to that swim and you're thinking to yourself, man, it's real now, the people are going off ahead of you. And you have that same kind of mental shock, I guess, in your Ironman, first off in the swim, and then you get onto the bike, you finish the swim, and the bike's going great, and then you hit mile 60 or whatever, and you look down at your computer and you realize, holy crap, I still got another 60 miles to go. It's like, it kind of seems never ending, but then you finally get off the bike and you start to run, and everything's feeling so great, you're cruising, you're finally done with the bike, all you think to yourself, man, all I have left is just this marathon, and you think, oh, it's going to be over in like no time, and then you start running, and then miles 15, 16, 17, 18 come, and at that point, it's all mental, man. Every bone in your body hurts, all the voices are telling you, let's just walk, I just want to stop and be done with this, but at that point, it's like, it's just putting one step in front of the other and just willing your mind and your body to do that, and that's why I truly believe that Ironman prep, even though we do have to log the volume, I think a bigger part of it is training the mind to be ready for the challenges that lay ahead, because at the end of the day, it's not your body that's going to, determine how well you do at the races. It's your mind.
Absolutely. Dude, that was beautifully said. Holy shit. I'm fired up now. Oh my God. But yeah, man, like, it's go time, It's 9 days. My first triathlon experience, I did Ironman 70.3 Muscleman in Geneva, New York, and I went into it and severely undermined the importance of nutrition, especially on the bike. Moving from an environment in Texas now, where I've been living for the past 3 months of training here, I undermined just how little sodium I was truly losing because of how much more I sweat here compared to up north. So as a result, my run ended up being slower than I anticipated, slower than I wanted it to be, and I crossed the finish line at fourth place in my age group, but since it was a rolling start, 2 minutes later, the guy coasts through, bumps me down to fifth place, and I missed World Championship qualifier by 1 spot, 2 minutes. I think the moment that I knew I was really hooked with Ironman and triathlon training was that finishing moment where I crossed the finish line and I was standing next to my dad and my cousin. We were watching the live tracking, and I looked over and I watched as I got bumped down to fifth place, and then sitting at the award ceremony where I was presented the fifth place plaque, and to be literally 1 spot away from that. I almost was like relieved, because I was just like, yes, like now this gives me such a greater motivation to work harder for the full Ironman now. I feel like that made me hungrier. I think if all things go to plan, it would be significantly more satisfying to me to qualify for the full Ironman World Championship, especially considering the amount of work that I've dedicated to this.
Watching him prepare for such a grueling event at such a young age is as exhilarating as it is. It's also very nerve-wracking. Obviously, I worry about him physically. I know he's in great shape, but it is so much on the body, and I worry about him a lot mentally. He is young and he's smart and he's been through a lot, and I know he's put himself through things that some people don't go through in their whole lives, never mind at 21. I would never tell him not to do something. I might worry about it, but I know that he's got to follow his path. I even actually said to him last week, like, can you take a break after this? Like, I kind of just want him to be, but I don't know if that's in his personality. it does make me a little nervous. I do worry. I worry about him feeling that he's always got to do more, achieve more. What's the next challenge? What's the next level? Push himself as far as he can push himself. And that, that does make me a little nervous.
I remember Nick said at one point that when you keep your head down and you just keep chopping it, it feels like you're not making any progress. It feels like there's always just something more to do, more in front of you. But if you take a second to lift your head up and look back, you realize you've cut down a whole forest. And that is truly a reflection of life, both as an athlete and as an individual. When you have this mindset that you just consistently need to keep working, allow yourself a chance to take a deep breath and reflect on all that you have done so far, all that you have grown over the years, what you have accomplished, because I think having an appreciation for what you've already done really can help accelerate what you are capable of doing.
You have to be in that exact moment. If you think about the end of the race, if you think about, my God, this is going to take 10 hours, like I don't know that you would even do it.
This is your experience that you chose to sign up for. When I think about that, I want to have every single emotion be mine. I want to be so mindful of every single thing that I'm going through, because I don't want to try and numb any of the pain. I don't want to try and distract myself at any times. I want to be present.
I feel like a piece of that is how we have had to live over the past 9 years. Like we have not been able to plan anything or think anything ahead. And I feel like that kind of shaped him into that's how he thinks. That's what we've been. That's what he's used to.
One of the most, if not the most defining moments of my life happened in April of 2015. I remember I was at a carnival with some of my friends and I was anticipating a call from my mom. When you're at a carnival, it's pretty loud. You can't really hear the tone of someone's voice. So when my mom did end up calling at around 6 p.m., she basically just told me, "You're good. You can stay with your friends. You can continue to have a great time. Don't worry about it." And 12-year-old me, I'm ecstatic. I'm having the time of my life now. 9 o'clock rolls around. My grandparents come and pick me up, and my two brothers in the back seat. Didn't really think anything of it because I lived 15 minutes away. We're a close family. We always do stuff together. But upon entering the front door of my house, I was presented with aunts, uncles, just close family, and I was confused. Are we having a party? Is this the reason why I wasn't supposed to come home early? Or I remember everyone kind of filling the living room, and my pastor leaning down, and he said, the first thing I want to tell you is that he's still alive. And what he would go on to explain is that my father, who is the former superintendent of the Metro North train line that ran from New Haven, Connecticut to Grand Central, New York, he was working on a defective train at the time. And what had happened was he had been electrocuted and his entire left leg had been disintegrated. His entire body was covered in third-degree burns. He was rushed to Yale Hospital and then airlifted to Bridgeport Hospital for their burn clinic and was in the ICU.
Luke was always the caretaker. His role out of everybody was to be the caretaker. He had a 6-year-old sister at the time. He knew how much I was dealing with and how much I already had on my plate, so he never wanted anything or asked for anything, or he tried to really keep everything together, which I think in turn was, one, difficult because he was just a young boy who, should not have had to worry about the things he had to worry about. But two, he internalized a lot because he didn't want to cause any problems. He didn't want me to have one more thing to kind of worry about.
And it was really difficult to go and watch your 40-year-old father relearn how to walk, how to talk, who his family was.
And then, unfortunately, with my older son, Luke's oldest brother, struggled with mental illness even before the accident, but it definitely ramped up after the accident. In 2019 was when my oldest son attempted suicide. And I think that really was a huge turning point for Luke, who was already dealing with so much. Even though he was younger, he was also a caretaker for Jake, his oldest brother.
That falling feeling suddenly came back. I thought so much about how hard I had worked in the years between my dad's accident and this scenario, and how dedicated I was to getting better, and it felt like this was just a major setback. A part of me, to this day still, a much smaller part now because I've accepted the fact that this is not the truth, but at the time, I blamed myself a lot. And it kept me up a lot, thinking about the things that I could have done to avoid what had happened.
When he got his full scholarship to USC and I was getting him ready to leave, he was gonna have to fly by himself. I couldn't fly him to California because I had to be here. And he's looked at me and said, I think I should stay. I don't think I should go. I'll stay, because there was an option to do it online. I'll stay here. I'll do one more semester online. Like, you need me here. And I, as much as I wanted to say, okay, it sounds good. Let's take your clothes out of the bag, because I didn't want him going to California. He was like my right hand. I knew he needed to go more than anything. So, sorry. I did the hardest thing, and I said, no, you're going. Like, that's it. This is what, no matter what happens, you gotta go. So, put him on a plane, and that was it. And I'm so glad I did, because it was everything he needed. He needed to live his own life, not my life. His brother's life, his father's life. So, it was important.
So I'm going to be consuming one of these bottles per hour. Each one's like 1,300 milligrams of sodium, 96 grams of carbs, yeah. So it'll be like hour 1, go bar, 220, go bar, 340, go bar, 5.
I do feel a tad bit of pressure at times that if I don't perform the way that I think I should, then I'm letting other people down. But in reality, this is my life. We might feel these external pressures that motivate us or detract us at times. You have to turn inwards and realize that what you are doing is entirely for yourself. So to take a step back and to be less focused on how individuals in my age group were performing and more focused on just taking in the full experience of my first ever Ironman, it really helped me to just ground myself and say, I am exactly where my feet are. Million thoughts going through your head, all the months, the many training sessions, long bike rides, endless runs, countless laps in the pool. It's all kind of flashing back, back, quickly in my head, just the amount of effort that I put into getting into this moment. any race day isn't necessarily this very scary, intimidating thing. It's a celebration of your training and how much effort you put into getting into that moment. I quite literally did everything I possibly could to train and prepare, that everything my coach gave me, every single workout I could possibly do, whether or not I completed it exactly as planned or failed it and had to redo it, I gave 100% effort to preparing for this very moment.
I just don't feel like I take a breath until it's over. I don't even focus on what place is he in. I don't focus on like where is he. It's not about where he places, how fast he's going, how long it takes. We say, please just get him through the finish line. That's it.
When I hit the water, and it immediately woke me up, and it's like, oh shit, like we're actually going. This is the start of the entire race. When you're underwater, it's soundless. Every now and then you'll get some splashing, some kicking, but for the most part, there's nothing going on. You have no idea how many people are watching you, except for every now and then you take a turn to breathe to the right or to the left. You're really in this meditative state of just how well can you flow throughout the water. Before I knew it, the swim flew by. Getting out of the water, finishing the second loop, feeling good. First thing that you see, lines of people cheering and yelling. So I take off my cap, I take off my goggles, give them a big yell to fire up the crowd, because why not? And as I'm running over, clicking my watch, trying to see what I got, I'm like, okay, like no matter what, the swim's already done at this point. So I'm just gonna get my wetsuit off. And I remember as I'm running, trying to see actually what I swam, my watch finally clicks over, and I ended up swimming a 103. I was ecstatic. I had quite literally the best swim of my life, something that truly surpassed what I thought I was gonna be capable of doing in swimming. And right there, it just like clicked for me. It was just, no matter how anything else goes from today, we have this positive. Try and keep that throughout the bike, throughout the run. Try and remind yourself, hey, this is something that, yes, it's challenging, but I truly get to enjoy.
Go, Luke.
Every 10, 15, 20 mile checkpoint, I'm just making sure that I'm sticking to my plan with my fueling, sticking to my plan with my efforts. Just as much as there have been negative experiences that have shaped me as a human being, there have been very positive experiences that have uplifted my spirits and reminded me of just how powerful it is to be alive. we do have control over how we perceive reality, how we choose to experience emotions, and what we do with our lives. Just having that desire to make the most of every single day. Not in the idea that you have to do something extremely profound on a daily basis, but just the mere appreciation for life. Instead of always worrying about the things that I have to do ahead, how complicated this race is going to be. Yeah, a 2.4 mile swim is intimidating, but it's not as hard mentally as looking at your father relearn how to live his life. A 112 mile bike ride, it's going to be very hard, but it's not going to be as hard as having to look at your older brother after he tried to take his own life and remind yourself that, hey, it wasn't your fault. A full marathon after the end of all of that is going to be extremely physically taxing, but it's not going to be nearly as mentally draining as having to look at your mother after being so displeased with being alive and having her tell you that she worries about you the most. I look at these experiences in my life, and instead of shying away from them, instead of trying to hide them because I'm afraid of what other people would think of me for what my past consists of, I use them to outwardly display that you can take anything in your life and turn it into something that helps other people, that helps yourself. Because what I've learned is that in sharing my journey, both athletically and mentally, people resonate with that. People realize that they aren't alone in having these mental struggles, that they aren't alone in being displeased with the point of life that they're at right now, that they realize that just because I don't know what I want to do with my life right now, just because I'm not at the point that I want to be right now, doesn't mean that I won't have it figured out, doesn't mean that I won't make progress. In accepting every single aspect of who we are as human beings, it can really provide us with a profound appreciation for all the work that we have done thus far, because it just reminds you that this is your life. This is the first time you are alive, and this is the only time you will have this life. So you can truly make it whatever you want it to be, so long as you are willing to accept it.
Luke, let's go.
So getting off the bike and not being able to bend down and put down my shoes definitely physically and mentally hurt a little bit, but I knew that I was 2/3 done. It was just, okay, like finish the run and that's it. And then as my shoes are getting slipped on for me and I'm trying to bend down to tie it, it slowly starts to register that this run, the third of the race, is a full marathon. So what that does demoralize me a tad, realizing that I'm going to be moving my body for close to 4+ more hours. Once again, it's just the fact that I didn't get this far just to get this far. I didn't put in all the work to get to the starting line. I didn't go through the 2.4 mile swim, the 112 mile bike, just to get to the run and be like, I'm done. That's not who I am. That's not who a committed athlete is. You show up regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of what pain you may be in. Your intentions are, if I'm starting this race, I'm finishing this race. No matter what, it was going to be one foot in front of the other until the last foot crossed that finish line.
What I see in Luke that makes me most proud is his drive to not give up. You just don't give up. No matter what life hands you, you do not give up. He could have easily become a victim. He could have easily taken everything he's been through and turned it around and felt sorry for himself and created a much different life than he did. And no one would have blamed him for that at all. And instead, he knows he's not a victim. He is not going to sit back and say, woe is me. He is not going to sit back and say, well, that happened because of all this horrible stuff I went through. He always sees that there's a bigger picture and that there's somebody out there that, has been through something worse than him, and it's not going to stop him. He's never, ever, ever going to use anything he's been through as an excuse. That's probably the most impressive thing about him.
I think in doing this Ironman race in September, and with it being National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, I really want this race to exemplify what it means to progress past negative experiences. Just because you might lack clarity with what you want to do doesn't mean that it's a bad life. You are capable of accomplishing so much more than you could ever imagine. You can change your life. You just have to believe you can first.
Oh my God.
How about Luke Hopkins?
Right here.
That's why I look at Texas, as the midpoint between Wisconsin and the World Championship, and that now it's my time to just prove myself, to prove that, hey, this wasn't just a one-time thing, that, hey, I didn't get lucky that I got a slot. No, I worked my ass off to earn it.